What's up, guys, and welcome to another detailed analysis slash guide to a hero. Today we're going to be looking at Admiral Bulldog's Lone Druid. I think the best way to learn how to play a hero is to look at the best player that plays that hero and see, what they do, how they skill their hero, how they actually interact with the other heroes in the lane, see how they actually handle team fights, where they position themselves, and how they use their abilities. Lastly, before we get started, I want to let you know that we're going to be looking at two separate games. One game where Admiral Bulldog basically has free farm, is able to do what he wants, get the proper timings that he needs to win, and another game where he doesn't and how that affects him. So we're also going to try to take a look at how Admiral Bulldog attempts to come back in a game when he is behind. So I really want this guide to be an all-encompassing guide, so even if you're brand new to this hero, you still get an idea of how to completely play him. So to start with, we're going to go over his abilities, and then we're going to go to the laning phase. So Lone Druid's first ability is Summon Spirit Bear. Basically, this is what he's known for. There it is right here. You want to do this right at the very beginning of the game. As soon as you spawn, you want this cooldown to start going down as soon as possible. You have your bear HP at 1400, 1800, 2300, and 2700. So as you level him up, he gets increased HP, lower attack time, increased armor, but you do get more damage if the bear actually dies. Now, keep in mind as well that the bear will get increased abilities as he gets leveled up as well in that Summon Spirit Bear power up. So by level 4 he'll have 3 abilities, which I'll go over them when they are available to go over. His second ability is Rabid, and this by default has a 10-second duration, and so usually you don't get this until you usually max Synergy, because Synergy has a built-in increased Rabid duration bonus. So basically, I mean, you might get 1 level in Rabid after you get 2 or 3 in Synergy, but Synergy increases bear bonus damage, bear speed, and then the obviously Rabid duration bonus, and gives you a little more HP when you transform into your bear mode. Keep in mind you are a ranged mode when you start out, and this is all very basic. We're going to be getting into much more advanced things here in a moment. Something that's kind of cool that he's doing right off the bat is sending his bear into the enemy jungle, looking for heroes, looking for, I don't know, where there might be warding, if they're coming to ward right here, that kind of thing. Pretty smart. Notice also that he is going to be blocking the creep wave. This is pretty much standard now that the creep wave positions have changed. You always want to be blocking them now in every single lane. The only cautionary thing would be don't block too much on this top lane, because you don't want to get it within your own tower range, which if you block extremely well, it might happen. Alright guys, so Admiral Bulldog is going to be going up against a Lich in a 1v1 in the solo safe lane, and the kind of tricky part about this is that Lich is going to be denying about 1/4 of the creeps with sacrifice, so it is going to slow down Admiral Bulldog's farm just by a little bit, and especially his gold is going to prevent him from getting a hand on Midas as quick. Let's go ahead and play this. I want you to pay special attention to how he last hits. He's trying to get the bear and the hero to attack at the exact same moment to increase your last hitting power. I'm going to go ahead and switch this to player perspective. Now, one of the reasons why Lone Druid is such a strong laning hero is that he has 2 sources of damage, and the real strength of that is if you can combine that source of damage at the same moment, you can just increase your last hitting power tremendously. It also allows you to harass your opponent tremendously well if you send the bear to attack the enemy hero. And Admiral Bulldog is a master at harassing the enemy opponent without over aggroing the tower, for example, with his bear. Like, look at his bear, it's like at full HP right now. So it's really, he just does a really good job of that, and you'll see that especially later. He really knows how to take advantage of especially the Q summon. I'll show you that in a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead and skip ahead. Alright guys, so we're going to talk for just a moment about how you should level up your character. First level, obviously, you want to get Summon Spirit Bear. Then you get 2 levels in Synergy, or at least that's what Admiral Bulldog does. I've seen him do that so far several times. And then he gets 3 levels in Summon Spirit Bear, get your ulti, max Spirit Bear, max Synergy, and then get your Rabid. So, and obviously get your ulti at whenever it's available. Alright guys, so we're going to be watching a gank on Funnick here. We've got Ake on the Enchantress coming up. Notice he does not get an entangle here, but he still manages to get the kill. Now, one thing I want to point out is that Bulldog goes into the trees here. There's a couple different things that you can do in the trees as Lone Druid, and you'll see in just a second. And now here, you'll see that he's blocked off the tree pathway, so he's safe while the bear tanks for him. Now, this basically is a way that you can say, you're not getting to me without going through my bear, and it's really fantastic way of being surviving. Even if 2 or 3 heroes are trying to gank you, you can do this in the forest over here, for example. Now, I'm going to back it up for just a second there. I want you to see this. The way that pseudo-random number distribution works with Lone Druid is that basically you've got a 20% chance to entangle, but really on the first hit you have less than 20% chance. But as you attack, it goes up until you actually get one. The end result is that you have 20% chance overall. But notice, he attacks twice with the bear, and he'll first hit puppy first hit entangle puppy, and part of the reason that he pulls that off is because he attacked creeps twice right before. And now that kind of ups your chances of actually getting an entangle if the previous 2 attacks you don't get an entangle. So that's something that a really advanced Lone Druid player will actually take advantage of. So for example, if they're on a creep wave, they'll try hitting the creeps twice, 3 times. If they don't get entangled during that time, then they'll send the bear to go attack the hero, and it's a much higher chance of actually getting an entangle. Alright guys, so now we've entered the crucial phase here. This is the moment, this is the time frame where if he dies again, he's probably not going to get a minus. And they're going for another gank on Kuroki here. Or I guess another gank on bottom lane, but a gank on Kuroki. It's this point in time that either he is going to start getting ahead or fall behind. If he gets ganked again, if he dies again, he's not going to get his Midas at a good time. And honestly, his Midas is not at an amazing time anyway. He's just about to get it after this creep wave, I believe. And there he just ordered it. And so he gets an 8-minute Midas, which is honestly not that great, but he did have a contested lane with Lich delaying his Midas by at least a minute and a half because of denying all of those creeps. Now, when he gets this Midas, he does use it on the big creep, and Night Stalker does not get any XP from that. Now, one thing I want to point out here is he entangles this creep, and then he immediately switches targets. That's because the entangle actually does tremendous amounts of damage to creeps. It does 540 damage to every creep. And so that's like an insane amount because it entangles for 9 seconds. So we can take a look at that. It entangles for 9 seconds on a creep, and it does 60 damage per second. And it's physical damage, so if they have low armor, it's actually going to do pretty much all 60. So like these have 1 armor, so it's going to pretty much do exactly 60. And so yeah, it's going to do tons of damage. And an entangle against a hero only does about 180 damage minus whatever armor they have. So so yeah, that's a really fantastic way to increase your farm. Also, I'd like to point out how he is constantly switching between the jungle and the lane. This is going to really accelerate his farm and help him get that radiance really, really fast. So he's basically pushing a lane, and then he's going in and clearing out some jungle camps, and then he's pushing the lane again and clearing out jungle camps, rather than just sitting in the lane. At this point, you want to use your bear's HP, or at least this is what Admiral Bulldog does constantly. He uses his bear's HP to tank for him in the jungle, and then he just resummons the bear. And it's a little bit risky because if he gets ganked, he's not going to have a bear for a really long time. But if he doesn't get ganked, it allows him to farm at a much higher rate than just sitting in lane farming with like a bear at like 100% HP, for example. That's a pretty big gank, killing Spectre. But so now he's back here clearing creep camps, and as soon as Lich pushes that lane out again, which he's doing right now. Let's go and go to free cam really quick. So he's going to push this lane out, and then Lone Druid's going to clear out all these camps again, and then he's going to go back and kill this again. And that's how you get your Radiance at just like a really great time. At least that's how Bulldog does it. And this is the recommended way for farming for most carries. If you can potentially jungle, what you want to do is push your lane out, and then as soon as you've pushed your lane out, go kill a bunch of jungle camps, and by the time you get done killing a round of jungle camps, you can probably come back and kill a stacked up lane of creeps, just like what Admiral Bulldog is doing right now. So if we take a look at Admiral Bulldog's item build, he starts out with some regen, a couple ironwood branches, and then on the bear he's got the stout shield, which he gets an orb of venom almost as soon as he gets that 275 to get it. Then he rushes that hand of Midas. If he's getting harassed a lot, he'll sometimes get those tranquils before the Midas. Now, this is patch 6.79, and tranquils were nerfed pretty heavily. And so you got to kind of farm with the bear if you want to get that regen. If you're, for example, your hero's pretty low, you can take advantage of that HP regen when the bear is not attacking, or when you use the bear to farm, but the hero is not attacking. Now you saw right there, he passed the Midas from the bear to the hero so that he could pull used it to get the extra experience. If you use it with the bear, you don't get the extra experience on your hero, so that's something that's very important to keep in mind. Now, he just used the bear to stack that camp, which is very, very cool. Nice little trick that he did there. And notice how he leaves the bear in lane to farm some creeps and then walks the Lone Druid hero away and then just summons the bear up, even though that the enemy heroes were right there. So that's just a one way. It's a little bit risky. You sometimes can get some extra last hits, but sometimes you'll lose your bear if you leave it to do a couple last hits on a creep wave. But he's only like 200 gold away, so he's just trying to move around the map, get as much farm as he possibly can. Alright, so he just got his Radiance at 17 minutes. This is a little bit delayed. So this is the first big team fight after getting the Radiance. He just got it about 30 seconds ago. And he actually has the Radiance currently on himself, not on the bear, which I think is a little bit of a mistake. He means to have the Radiance on the bear itself, but no one's perfect. So he is doing Radiance damage to Kuroki right now, though. And looks like he's going to be able to get his ultimate off. Lots of soul assumption damage, and there he goes down. But he really needs to get this Radiance on the bear. So again, no one's perfect. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up. Great blink by S4. Or was that a 4-staff, I think, actually. But the fact that they managed to pick off those 4 heroes is huge. And honestly, I don't think that Radiance made that big of a difference in that team fight, if I'm being completely honest. I think it has a lot more to do with hero positioning and just really good micro by Alliance. And just bad positioning by Na'Vi would be the primary factor there in losing that. Now, Admiral Bulldog is very good at keeping his hero alive, so they're going to be giving this Aegis to I think to Night Stalker, which is... Who's playing Night Stalker? Lotus playing Night Stalker. And yeah, the bear's got a Hyperstone now. He's going to be going for an AC. This is like the next big item progression for Lone Druid. Radiance into AC. So we're getting near the end of this first game. We are going to be looking at basically the end game push that Alliance does here against Na'Vi. Now, one little silly mistake that Admiral Bulldog makes there is he puts the Radiance on the hero and doesn't have it on the bear when he sends the bear to the top lane. So it's just kind of silly of him. But basically, this is one of the reasons why Lone Druid's so scary right here. He's got the third ability of the bear is to demolish, it's called. It gives you 40% extra damage versus buildings, and it just makes this bear do so much damage to buildings. He just tears through towers, tears through Raxes. Now, one super important thing to know is that your timing of your Radiance on Lone Druid is so important. All these heroes of Na'Vi have about 1,000 HP or less. I think Spectre's the tankiest, and that's at 1,000 or 1,100 HP. So basically, there's nothing they can do they can't sustain in a team fight because this Radiance bear just hurts them so much. Puppy smokes in. They're looking for a fight here. Let's go ahead and slow this down. We're going to go to 25%. Now, the bear was going after Puck, but now he summons it to himself. I want you to notice. That way it doesn't get caught in the black hole. Now he's going to run around the black hole. He is doing burn damage to Havos and not to Enigma, not to Puppy, Enigma, because he has a BKB. But he gets a first hit entangle on Dendi, which is huge. Now, it's not really a first hit entangle because he did attack a creep a couple times. That's partially why he had probably a higher chance of getting it with PRD. Now, there is a Lich Ult. The Lich Ult is going to, though, kind of whiff across some creeps. And we're going to get another entangle here on Havos in just a moment. And now notice what Admiral Bulldog's doing, though. He's keeping his bear back away from Spectre until he gets that entangled. Then he brings his hero in, because now Havos knows, I'm going to die. If I go into this, I'm dead. There's nothing I can do to actually fight. So Night Stalker's Aegis gets popped. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up to half speed. And now the burn damage is just taking away Funnick. Like, he's dead now. Visage takes the kill with the Familiars, but basically the burn damage did tremendous amounts of damage. Now here's the same fight for those of you who want to see it in normal motion. And I mean, it's really hard to make some of the same decisions that he does. In particular, the thing that really kind of catches my eye is the fact that he recalls the bear to himself after the black hole started to dodge the black hole. And like right here, he recalls the bear right there and doesn't go into the black hole, manages to stay out of it. He does kind of block Aki right there, which is too bad for him. But and Havos definitely gets greedy coming back in to get this gem. Kind of silly of him. I don't know, maybe he thought that they were backing out at that point or something. I don't know why he would think that, but it was just kind of stupid. So anyway, guys, this kind of concludes this particular game, and I mean, this really showcases the power of a Radiance Bear. From here, it's basically over, and we're going to move on to the next game where Admiral Bulldog has a lot harder time finding farm, and we'll see what he does, how he modifies his build just a little bit, and yeah, so let's go ahead and get to that right now. Alright guys, so this game is another game in the WePlay Final Championship. This is game number 5. This is an example of a game that just doesn't go your way, especially in the early game. He's going to be playing solo Lone Druid versus a Shadow Shaman and Medusa. And so his goal right now is just to harass these guys as much as possible, get as much farm as he can, and not die. Like the important part here is not dying, if at all possible, and getting whatever farm he can. And one of the best ways of doing that is using the bear to keep this Shadow Shaman back. And this Shadow Shaman is just using as many zaps on him as possible. And I'm going to go and switch the announcer pack real quick. There we go. And so his lane is pushing just because of all the harass that the Shadow Shaman was doing. And he is popping a lot of clairs. Oh, he just got cancelled by a range script. That's really good for Lone Druid because that means less shocks. And he's harassing again with the bear as much as possible. And this is just a really tricky laning situation. I mean, you don't want to overextend. You don't want to be completely denied farm. And I mean, honestly, he's doing a lot better than what almost any other hero would do, simply because there's most heroes would just get zoned out by the Shadow Shaman, but he's able to use that bear to kind of zone out the zoner outer, so like kind of compete with Shadow Shaman equally. And notice he went for boots first, and that's just because he needs to be able to survive for as long as possible, and boots in this kind of situation is going to be better than getting an offensive item like the Orb of Venom. So he does not have the Orb of Venom yet up on the bear. Just went with the Stout Shield on the bear, and here comes the Shadow Shaman to do some more harass. They're going to try to kill this bear, and he tried to actually deny the bear himself. It's kind of an interesting move. But that did a backlash of 100 damage, which is not much, at least at this point. Kuroki being pretty sneaky, coming around through the backside there. But this is just, again, a really tricky laning situation. And he just got, again, went 2 points in synergy, 2 points in summon spirit pair. The important part to take away from this is that he's using the bear to zone out the Shadow Shaman, pulling it back, zoning out the Shadow Shaman again, and then just using the ranged hero to get the last hits. He's not even hardly trying to get the last hits with the bear itself. Okay, so now up until this point, he's actually not been doing that terribly, considering he's 1 against 2. But EGM decides it's time to gank, and he whiffs the Gale, and unfortunately, this means the death of Bulldog. If he had landed that Gale, he would not be in range for the Shackle, and honestly, Kuroki probably would have died almost for sure to the bear. So that now puts Medusa tremendously ahead of Lone Druid. So that means that he can hardly lane in this lane anymore. There's going to be too many disables coming out from Shadow Shaman, too much harass from the Ether Shock, and then obviously 3 levels in Mystic Snake is brutal. Like, that's just a ton of damage. So, so instead of coming back bottom again, look at where he goes. He goes up top lane, and it's time to catch up. And so this is kind of his response. Let's go get a kill on Funnock in top lane. See if we can come back with some kill XP, as well as just get out of that horrible 1-on-2 situation. And Dendi is flying here. Look at him. It's like pretty freaking scary. But right now he doesn't have his Spirit Bear because he actually resummoned it. So this is one thing you want to try to be careful of in whenever you're playing Lone Druid. You never want to summon the bear when you might die, if possible. But he had just lost the bear right here, and so he resummoned it, and then he died within like 30 seconds of doing that. So now he does not have a bear anymore. And I'm just gonna go back to player perspective here. So his response now is to sit in top and farm as much as possible to try to be as safe as possible. And yeah, so let's see here. What did he pick up? He just picked up boots on his bear. And notice how he's not just rushing straight for the Midas. He's saying, okay, I need to get my basic items up on the bear as soon as possible. And I think oftentimes he will get boots on both him and the bear before getting Midas, especially if he's behind, because like it's just too big of a risk not having those boots on the bear, just for the potential harass you can have. And notice how he goes immediately into true form, and he's going to let the bear do the majority of the farming from now on. And I mean, he is super tanky at this point in the game, only 7 minutes in at 1170 HP. He's going to be really hard to kill now that he's in his true form. But he is keeping along the left side, so that means that if someone comes in through this avenue, he's already going to be as far away as possible. And again, he is only hitting with the last. He's only last hitting with the bear, and this is really important. And he is also trying to deny as much as possible to keep the creep wave from pushing. Because if the creep wave were to push, for example, up to the enemy tower, that would be the end of it. End of farming for Lone Druid probably right now, because he just could not risk going up to the enemy tower. So just being super careful to only farm on the very last hits, and then to deny as much as possible, and also to keep his hero as far back as possible. Look at how far back he is now. He sees Clockwork, and he's like staying literally as far back as possible. So some really smart play coming out of Admiral Bulldog here, and this is like kind of the catch-up time again. Like he can't die right now. He needs to play super safe. If he dies again, he's going to get like so much further behind, and it's basically going to be GG if he dies again. So he knows that, and he's trying to play really, really carefully. I thought this was a really cool thing that he does here. He sends the bear to attack Medusa, and then he re-summons the bear back. Just constantly sending the bear out to attack Medusa, but bringing it back again. Kind of threatening Medusa, just trying to mess up her last hits. He sends the bear out a little bit too far so the bear couldn't attack that time. But a really cool micro there coming out of Bulldog. Bulldog's goal here is to camp on this top lane and just farm. He's got that Midas up now. He's still a little bit behind, but he always tries to make sure that he's got the bear. He's trying to just play super safe, sending the bear only. He's not trying to last hit himself. So in his attempt to catch back up, one of the most important things that he's doing here is he's not spending his gold on things like Tranquil Boots or Phase Boots. He's basically saying, I'm going to spend every last bit of my gold exclusively on getting this the Midas and then Radiance up. So I think that's a really important thing that a lot of players would make a mistake. They're like, well, I'm going to just get small items until my Radiance is up. Now he says, I'm going to still try to go for as fast of Radiance as I possibly can. All right, now he's finally got his Radiance. He just got it at the 21-minute mark, and you can tell like this is going to be a different ball game. So last game he got it at the 16-minute mark, and let's go ahead and take a look at their HP now. So Funnick, 1700 HP. Chen, still only 910, but he's got a mech and Hand of God, so really closer to 1500 HP. 800 HP on Kuroki, and Dendi, 1800 HP, and then of course Medusa at 1200 HP plus a mana shield. So really, it's more like probably 1600 HP, 1700 HP equivalent. So you compare that to last game where no hero had more than 1100 HP. Good luck killing Clockwork with just Radiance Burn, for example. Or Dendi. Dendi's got a Vanguard, and he's almost finished his egg, so he's going to be even tankier by the time the next fight happens. And then Havos. Havos has got a Lincoln Sphere, and is just going to be just really tanky with that mana shield. So, I mean, that's one of the big differences between last game and this game, is just the amount of HP that they have. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at a team fight here. Keep in mind, this is at the 22-minute mark now, and look at how less effective this Radiance is. I mean, it's only like 3 minutes after the last major team fight that happened in the other game, but the other team's just doing so much better. They have so much tankier items, and like this Radiance Burn barely hurts Dendi. They have Hand of God keeping them alive. Havos is still at full HP, even though he's been absorbing the Radiance Burn the entire time. And the bear dies because they now have so much damage that they're capable of even knocking down the bear. So, I mean, I think this just really showcases how important it is to get that Radiance up early. And in particular, especially if you can really counterpick heroes that are like really squishy. The Radiance just tears through them. I think this kind of a game, I'm not sure how well a Lone Druid can even do against a Medusa, especially if it's a slow start for Lone Druid. Like there's just very little he can do. Okay, so now we're 28.5 minutes in. He still doesn't have AC. He's about 1,000 gold away from it. So he's significantly behind. If you're behind with one item, you're going to be behind with pretty much the rest of them. You have Medusa, who has an Aegis now. And I mean, what are you going to do with a double Medusa? How are you going to kill her twice? She's so tanky now. And she's got that ult. Froze the bear. The bear just really can't do much against that. And when all of Dire's people focus it, it just really doesn't have enough tankiness to it yet. So he goes ahead and resummons. He really needs an entangle on Dendi. He doesn't get one, though. And it's time to chase. They're trying to pick off. It looks like there's Kuroki here. And great idea to smoke, but it doesn't really matter. That Radiance Burn. And Lone Druid himself is just so fast. So, I mean, despite being so far behind, they managed to push him back and defend their racks. And, I mean, against almost anyone else, I think that this game would have spiraled out of control, and that itself, that fight right there would have been GG. I mean, how many people would still be able to get up he's 200 gold away right now from an AC. I mean, AC is not going to save this game. Medusa is inherently a harder carry than Lone Druid. I mean, if they were to win this, they would have had to shut down Medusa's farm. I feel like Na'Vi really knew what they wanted to do going into this game. They knew they had to shut down Lone Druid, and I felt like Alliance just didn't treat Medusa as big of a threat as she really was. So ends up costing them big time, and now there's kind of this impending doom of this giant Medusa who is getting so farmed. 252 last hits. Lone Druid, Admiral Bulldog's only got 154 right now, and Gyro is only 164. And there's just no way they're going to be able to catch up at this point. So I think he has the AC done right now. He does manage to finish AC at the 30-minute mark, and now he is using his bear to do a little bit of Radiance Burn farming. One of the best ways to do this is to get out ahead of the creep wave and kind of pull the other creep wave backwards and just have them follow the bear. He also used the Midas on the bear. Okay, so we've got a DD on Medusa right now, and the Entangle procs the Lincolns. So the rocket actually does connect. It would have been much better to cast the rocket sooner. He's fishing right now for an entangle proc from the Lincolns on Medusa, but he pays for it dearly. This is a pretty big mistake. Now he has to resummon early. Now this means that in the middle of this team fight, if the bear dies again, there is no resummon. And stuns the bear up again, focuses, cogs again, and this is just one of the reasons why Clockwork is such a good counter to Lone Druid. I mean, there's very little that he can do. Now, Admiral Bulldog, he has almost nothing on his actual hero, so he knows that, you know, there's not much point to me actually getting my hero into the battle. It's better if I survive and save my gold and not feed gold and just rely on the bear to fight. And so, I mean, there's basically nothing that Alliance can do to stop this. Radiance Bear it was too little, too late. ACs doesn't give it enough survivability against this much DPS. And, I mean, if Alliance were to win this, they would have had to win it in the 1 minute mark where they should have sent Veno bottom with Lone Druid and basically maybe had Enchantress gank a lot sooner. And they would have probably been able to dominate that bottom lane and give Lone Druid the farm farm he needed to actually out-carry Havos early enough. Like late game, Medusa's always going to out-carry Lone Druid given equal farm or better farm. And she has significantly better farm. So basically, that's what we're looking at in this game, and that's why Lone Druid just didn't work out. So things we can learn from this both games put together. Number one, hero positioning for Lone Druid is key. First game, they may have lost that fight if he was caught in that black hole. So that was just a huge moment, and it kind of really helped them take that fight. Number two, really learn to take advantage of that bear's HP to alternate between lane and jungle farm to kind of flash farm as fast as possible to get that Radiance Midas up running as soon as possible. Number three, Lone Druid is a really strong hero, strong enough that he can kind of hold his own in a 1v2 lane, but he's like, ultimately, if you want him to get the Radiance and Midas and AC timings that you want him to have, he really needs to have a free farm lane or really close to a free farm lane, one that he can absolutely dominate in kind of in a one-on-one situation. I think the fourth thing that we can take away is that we need to prioritize key items like the Radiance, the Assault Cuirass, above small ones such as Tranquil Boots, Magic Wand, other things like that. So just basically go for those major key game-changing items and ignore the small items when you're trying to play catch-up. So, alright guys, that's it for the Lone Druid guide/analysis. I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to post any pro players that you'd love to have me analyze. Again, this is Quadron. I run a YouTube channel and I stream every now and then. If you'd like to go check out some of my other videos, as well as catch me on my stream, my YouTube is youtube.com/QuadronTV, and my Twitch is the same, just Quadron TV. So guys, without further ado, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you guys next time.